If you've ever felt the pang of guilt when your child responds to your Tamil or Hindi or Mandarin question in perfect English, this video is for you, my friends. It is at that moment when you realize that your mother tongue is slowly becoming a foreign language to your own child. But you're not alone, my friends. Today, I'm sharing something that's deeply personal that many of you have been asking me about our family's journey of raising our daughter between cultures and languages here in the UK. 9 years ago, my wife and I moved from India to the UK when our daughter was just 2 years old. Like many of you watching, we arrived here with dreams and aspirations for a better future for our daughter, and not just with a luggage full of spices and family photos, although we had that too. But we also had questions and anxieties about preserving our heritage while building a new life here. Those of you who've been following my channel know that my mother tongue is Tamil. It's interchangeably mentioned as Tamil as well in some places, so feel free to say it the way you like. My wife's language is Konkani, and we were determined that our daughter would speak both. When she was little and learning to speak, she was happily babbling in both languages. But fast forward to today. She is over 10 years old, fully British in her accent, and needs constant reminders to speak our native languages at home. Does this sound familiar, my friends? Today's video isn't just research and theories. It is our lived story, our successes, our struggles, and the lessons we've learned along the way, which is also backed by real research and shaped by real community experiences. So wherever you come from and wherever life has taken you, my friends, I hope our journey helps you navigate your own path. Like I said earlier, when we arrived in England, our daughter was just beginning to form sentences in Tamil and Konkani. Now, within 6 months of her starting nursery, at age 2.5, everything changed. I remember the first time when I asked her a question in Tamil and she responded in English. While I first thought, how cute and adorable, the enormity of that simple linguistic shift did not strike me until much later. Now, at age 10, she'll persevere to speak Tamil and Konkani with her grandparents during video calls to India, making a genuine effort that warms our hearts. But with us, the conversation quickly defaults to English within seconds, despite our gentle reminders. And she once candidly told me, "Papa, why should I struggle in Tamil when you actually understand English perfectly?" Now, coming from a child's point of view, that seems to be a very logical question, and one that highlights what linguists call the path of least resistance in language choice. Meanwhile, let me also tell you a story about my cousins in France who faced even tougher battles. Now, despite speaking Tamil at home, their kids, who are now teens and young adults, can barely understand it, let alone speak it. During family reunions, watching these French-raised youngsters struggling to communicate with their grandparents and rest of their extended family is both painful and eye-opening. So, my friends, what actually works and what doesn't? Let me share with you what we've tried, both our successes as well as our failures. Firstly, we attempted the OPOL method, which is called the one person, one language approach. I would speak only in Tamil, and my wife would speak only in Konkani. Now, research suggests that clear language boundaries actually works. But we quickly discovered how difficult this was, even for us to maintain consistently, especially when discussing aspects about school matters, which seemed easier in English. Where we've seen a bit more success is with what linguists call time and place boundaries. Now, we've designated dinner time and part of the weekends as Tamil and Konkani time only, creating at least one consistent language environment daily. But our biggest success, I think, has come through necessity. My in-laws visited here for 3 months, and one of them doesn't speak much English comfortably. Now, that came as a blessing for us, as suddenly our daughter had a compelling need and reason to use Konkani consistently. Her progress during those months was remarkable, proving Dr. Pearson's research that I spoke to you about earlier, that children need authentic reasons in order to use their heritage languages. But when they left, we noticed that her Konkani slowly began to fade again. Now, this prompted our current strategy, simulating grandparent-only weekends, where we pretend not to understand English during video calls and create a language need environment. It might sound funny, but it actually works. Try it out. My cousins in France represent what researchers call complete language shift by the second generation. Now, despite their parents speaking Tamil at home, the social pressure of French society and education system resulted in heritage language attrition. Now, when I asked my cousin why his children don't speak Tamil anymore, his answer was revealing. He said that by the time they realized what was happening, it was already too late. They understood Tamil, but responded only in French, and eventually they gave up. Researchers call it the three-generation shift, where the first generation speaks primarily the heritage language, the second becomes bilingual but prefers the majority language, and the third loses the heritage language entirely. Now, their experience came as a warning sign to us, and it motivated us to be more intentional before we reach the point of no return. As we all know, my friend, language is vital. But raising a cross-cultural child is about more than just vocabulary. Our language struggles led us to a much deeper question. How would our daughter develop her Indian identity while growing up in the UK? How do we retain our identity beyond language? Dr. Tanya Tidsman, who's done a lot of research with South Asian diaspora families, provided valuable perspectives and something for us to look forward to. This research was an absolute eye-opener for us and helped us respond more thoughtfully to her identity exploration rather than just panicking about cultural loss. We've learned to distinguish between normal developmental identity exploration and true cultural disconnection. When we realized that language began slipping despite our sincere efforts, we doubled down on other cultural touchpoints to create our own cultural anchors strategy. Our daughter loves food, and she's passionate about Indian food and regularly requests her favorites. And my wife does her best to make sure that's cooked at home. Her friends know her as the girl who brings the best lunch to school. Her dals, her paneer masalas, and her absolute favorite, the biryanis, are popular in school. Food has become the most authentic connection to Indian culture and something that she genuinely takes pride in rather than seeing it as an obligation. Another thing that we do, despite the expense, is we prioritize our yearly trips to India. Now, these are immersive experiences and have proven much more valuable than countless hours of language instructions at home. Now, watching her confidently navigate her grandparents' neighborhoods in Bangalore, I see that her Indian identity actually gets activated in ways that we simply don't see happen in the UK. When in Rome, do as a Roman does takes on a whole new dimension when we see how easily our daughter adjusts to her surroundings in India. Now, once back in England after holidays in India, connecting with other South Asian families in similar situations has been very invaluable. It creates a space where being bicultural is the norm rather than being the exception. Regular gatherings with other Indian British families, learning Indian dance, etc., have created a micro community for our daughter where children see that dual identities are being reflected and also validated. But my friends, before you think everything is hunky-dory, let me share some specific challenges that we've faced and how we've attempted to address them. First of all, let me say that we've been quite fortunate, and not everyone is as fortunate as we've been with our daughter's school. They have been brilliantly supportive of multilingualism. Her teachers often express admiration for her efforts to maintain her Tamil and Konkani roots alongside speaking good English. The school celebrates cultural diversity through international days, where children are encouraged to proudly wear traditional clothing and share aspects of their culture and heritage with children who have not been exposed to those. Our research clearly confirms that this kind of institutional support makes a significant difference. We've also found that engaging proactively with teachers about our language goals has helped create the supporting environment, and we would encourage you to do the same as well. The bigger challenge we've noticed is about a clear pattern emerging across our extended family. Many of my younger cousins, and certainly most cousins of our daughter's generation, naturally gravitate towards English, even in India. During family gatherings, while the older folk speak Tamil or Konkani, the younger ones almost universally shift to English when talking amongst themselves. This reflects what sociolinguists call the language prestige factor, where global languages such as English gain social capital that somehow our regional languages lack. But rather than fighting this natural drift, let's focus on ensuring that our daughter at least maintains receptive bilingualism, the ability to understand her heritage languages, even if she primarily responds in English. Now, research shows that this comprehension ability makes reactivating the language much easier in life later if she chooses to do so. I'll talk to you about another challenge that we faced as well. Post-COVID, when we visited India after 4 years, our daughter really struggled. She was young and caught between two cultures. To English when visiting relatives in India, but marked as different by her brown skin and cultural practices when back in the UK. This neither here nor there feeling is precisely what researchers call the third culture kid dilemma. Now, we've tried to address this by framing her bicultural experience as her unique strength. When she struggled with feeling different, we've introduced her to successful British Indian role models who've integrated both cultures in their identity as well as in their careers and made a huge success out of it. Now, my friends, why am I saying all this to you? Based on our decade of experience and mistakes, there are some practical strategies that you might be able to consider from this conversation. You need to start early, but make sure that you never give up. One piece of research by Montreal puts us at ease. The study suggests that though easier when started young, heritage languages can actually be developed at any age. Our daughter has made significant progress in Tamil and Konkani languages between the ages of 8 and 10, despite having some early resistance. The second thing that I would encourage you all to do is to try and create that genuine need. Our grandparent-only weekends and visits to India create authentic communication needs that classroom learning cannot replicate. Consider regular video calls with monolingual relatives or with community members. Number 3 is use media and technology that we have strategically. Watch meaningful Indian films, TV shows, and music videos, and this can significantly improve your child's passive understanding of all the languages. To an extent, our daughter even understands Kannada and Hindi, and we've found that content with compelling storylines or music is something that she enjoys much better than explicitly educational material. And don't forget to celebrate your small wins. Rather than expecting perfect fluency, let's celebrate micro improvements. A new word learned, or short conversation held, or understanding a movie without the subtitles. Research shows that positive reinforcement is more effective than correction for heritage language learning. And on the other side of the spectrum, for the cultural identity, you could consider trying to make heritage cool. Inviting school friends over for Diwali celebrations and sharing Indian snacks at school made our culture something special rather than something different. Now, this cultural ambassador role has helped our daughter immensely. It makes cultural pride more natural and not forced. And try to connect history to identity. Things like learning about your great-grandparents' role in India's independence movement, for example, can give your children a personal connection to Indian history that textbooks cannot provide. We believe, and research affirms, that personal family narratives can create stronger cultural connections than abstract heritage teaching. Again, I've said this enough previously. Visit your homeland regularly. Despite financial strain, our annual Indian trips have been our best investment in her cultural identity. The sensory experiences, the emotional connections, and the language immersion during these visits accomplish more than years of just heritage education abroad. And importantly, prepare for identity phases. Children typically go through phases of heritage identity in terms of acceptance, rejection, and finally integration. Understanding these as normal developmental stages rather than failures has helped us respond much more effectively. So finally, my friends, our journey of raising a British Indian child continues to evolve. There have been frustrating moments when we've worried about losing our cultural connection, but we've also had moments that have been balanced by heartwarming instances of watching her confidently navigate both worlds. So if I could share just one insight from our decade-long experience, it would be this. Cultural and linguistic transmission isn't linear. There will be phases of rejection, acceptance, and finally integration. The goal isn't perfect bilingualism or even an idealized cultural identity. It is to give our children roots that are strong enough to let them grow into who they choose to become. As researcher Sujata Fernandez discovered in her work with the diaspora families, children often circle back to their heritage with new appreciation during late adolescence or early adulthood, drawing on the cultural foundations that our parents established years earlier. Now, I've seen this pattern with my French cousin. The same teenagers who rejected Tamil are now young adults who are curious about their roots, although they lack the language foundation in order to explore it fully. Our children are writing their own natural cultural stories. These stories won't look exactly like ours, but will hopefully carry forward the same values, languages, and traditions that matter most. Now, my friends, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. How have you navigated raising children between cultures? How have you seen your friends and relatives raising children between two cultures? What challenges and triumphs have you encountered? Until next time, this is Vivian And thanks for joining us on the Global Daisies.